Great.
Okay. So, first of all, Thomas, I would like to ask you if you were born between 1981 and 1996.
I was born in 1996.
Okay, good. And are you interested in having a job or even a career in consulting?
Somewhat.
And what attracts you in that prospect?
Um, being able to switch between projects, so not being stuck on a project that has lost its novelty and its yeah, kind of where you lose the passion for it.
Hmm?
So you keep applying the skills you have to different settings. I think what's most attractive to it for it.
Okay. When you say projects, do you also understand that different projects are in different industries, or when you say project, it's literally just doing something different,
Uh,
even if it's within the same industry?
it can be both.
Can be both. Okay, as long as there's some novelty, that's what you're going for,
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you take into consideration when looking for a job in consulting or just a job offer in general?
Oh, first of all, salary, of course. Secondly, a place of office, where you're going to work, and also if you're
Yeah.
going to have to travel a lot to, and which destinations those are. Thirdly, company size, I guess. Um, and then fourthly, if I can think of something, um, I guess secondary benefits.
Okay. I
Yeah.
would like you to tell me a bit more like what would be a good salary for you. And not you don't need to give me like numbers, but what would you like to be able to do with that salary?
Oh, I would like to be able to not have to worry about paying for groceries ever. So just mindless shopping. Um,
But mindless essential shopping or like high-end shopping? As
no,
you
no,
just
not
said.
not no, 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 not high-end shopping. So like groceries and like
Everyday life.
useful materials. So if, things like when you're going out for drinks or something, that you don't watch how much you're going to spend and things like that. No, not necessarily expensive watches or anything. I don't think that's feasible to demand in a starting job.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
think like around 3,000 euros or slightly above that before taxes is reasonable for
Okay.
a consulting job at least.
Hmm. So basically, with your starting salary, you would like to at least live a comfortable life. And tell me if I'm correct or not, because this is my interpretation of what you're saying right now.
Hmm.
Live a comfortable life in that you can pay for your rent, you can go for groceries, and enjoy your time with your friends, and even have some spare money that you can save some money for the long term or to have vacations, but nothing too outrageous.
Exactly.
Okay. And what do you include in secondary benefits? Can you make it a bit clearer for me?
Yeah. So secondary benefits or fringe benefits could be maybe pension, so pension things, health insurance, company car, very important one. Being able to work part time or for example, things like, well, not that it's relevant at the moment, but things like paternity leave, maybe a few years down the line.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that would be something important for you. Okay.
Oh, sorry, what did you say? I didn't hear you.
No, I understand what you're saying. Paternity leave would be something that eventually it will be something that you're gonna look into.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Okay, sure, sure, sure. Okay, and out of these things, which one would you say that you value the most when
Oh, the
looking at a
car,
job?
definitely the car.
I'm serious, Thomas.
No, I am serious as well. No, having like what kind of car, or at least what kind of
No, no, no. Okay, no, no. Wait, going a step back, you told me about your salary, location of job, company size, fringe benefits. which
Yes.
one of these would you consider most? Would you value the most when considering a job opportunity?
Oh, so all of them. Okay. Salary, definitely.
Sorry. Okay. And which one? I was like, how do you want your job? I don't care what they pay me as long as I have a car.
As long as I have a fat car.
And which one would be less important for you, or the one you would be most flexible on giving up?
Secondary benefits, or do you want a specific one?
Uh, sure. The more specific, the better.
Yeah, I mean things like paternity leave will be probably be one of the last things that I started looking for.
Okay. And in your job, what do you expect out of your coworkers?
I expect them to be equally skilled. I
Makes
expect
sense.
them to be motivated to come up with the best solutions. So in order to do that, they also have to be customer centric and feel a sense of responsibility for the products that they're developing,
Mm-hmm.
or the service that they're providing, either way. Um, yeah, really independent and responsible people, at least like professional. Especially in consulting, it's you're always working for a client who isn't your direct boss, and there's a certain degree of professionality that goes with it, which is definitely mandatory in my opinion.
Okay, I need you to clear up a couple of things for me.
Yeah.
When you mean professional, what do you understand by being professional, first of
Okay.
all?
Yeah. So knowing what role you have to present yourself in, so which role you so your role as as someone that's providing a service, which
Mm-hmm.
also requires you to act in a certain way, so in a professional way. So being on time, being prepared, being interested, asking smart questions, being
Mm-hmm.
efficient with other people's time, also respecting other people, and being able to know where the differences between um, work-related items and personal
Mm-hmm.
related items.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. And what about you said you expect your coworkers to be equally skilled?
Yes,
Can you
I,
develop that?
I, I expect them to well at least have the same education degree, like a high level of education,
Mm-hmm.
or work experience that compensates for it.
Okay.
Um, Especially if you're doing a starter job, you expect to be the least skilled person in your team, and you don't. Um, yeah, you don't want other people to kind. You kind of have to drag along, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
But you have to, yeah. They need to be on the same level in order for you, for I think, for a consulting team to perform well. Otherwise, it will be like group projects, you know. For example, you'd have Yosha, who is definitely lagging behind, and then the entire group suffers from it.
Okay. What is
This is a joke, by the way, Claudia.
I know, Yosha doesn't like behind. I know that was a stupid example. You just used her name
Okay,
because.
okay.
Uh, I'm just sorry. I'm on interview mode, so I'm just like thinking.
Okay.
So even if that's, I'm a bit confused right now because what if that person, for example, recognizes their, their lack of experience or skill,
Mm-hmm.
but tries to make up for it by, trying to learn and being helpful, works harder to make up for it. Would that still be something that you would dislike, or would you be okay with it?
Um, hmm, that's a good question. I think I would be okay with it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
well then.
maybe saying that they're equally skilled is a wrong the wrong way of saying it. I think like being able to produce the same output and how you produce the output doesn't really matter. So you can be very skilled and very naturally gifted at what you do, but you can also work harder than your colleagues in order to achieve the same result. As long as you have the sense of responsibility that you have to achieve a certain result, no matter the means, um, might be more important.
So for you, it's more important that the people around you share the same sense of responsibility in that they have work to do, and not as much the skill level that they do. The skill level that they have.
Yes.
It's more feeling, perhaps. Tell me if I'm wrong once again. Feeling as more of you know, that everyone is on the same page regarding what they're there to do, and not as much.
How they're going to do it. Yeah, no, exactly. So that everyone's on the same page and what needs to be done, but how everyone achieves this result is irrelevant mostly.
Okay. What do you expect of your superiors in the workplace?
I expect them to know where we're going, to be able to explain where we are now, where we need to go, and how we need to get there. So giving, if possible, the clearest instructions that they are able to give, in order to make sure nobody does work that is not relevant or less efficient than it could be. Because if you know where you're going for, you also know, you can also interpret how to get there.
Okay.
Because there's no worse feeling than doing something in order only to hear that it's not necessary anymore or wasn't really relevant in the first place.
Mm-hmm. That's what you expect from your superiors?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you expect of your company as an entity as a whole?
I don't really have expectations of the company itself, I guess. Whether they, well, usually in large consulting firms, you're going to be treated pretty much according to whatever standards they and processes they have in place. So, and if the company is large enough, it's always good, you know. So it's you won't be treated as someone special, but you'll also be treated fairly well as a baseline. So. No real expectations there, only that they perform on like the basic level of consulting company employee treatment. Yeah, I hope that's clear enough. Is that too ambiguous?
A bit, but let me try to let me try to guide you with question. When you say you expect to be treated well enough, if I'm quoting you correctly, what do you understand by being treated well enough?
That there's an IT service desk there for IT related questions. That there's a human resource department who can help you with things like contract stuff and declaration of expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, those kinds of
So
things.
you expect to have the resources you need
Oh,
to make your job happen.
I think Josh should just
Okay,
came
okay,
back
I'll
on.
wait. I'll
I
wait.
need I need to open the door.
Yeah,
Real
go,
quick.
go, go, go.
So it was not your shit. It was actually my Google Chromecast that just arrived. So let's continue.
Hold on. So you expect the company to provide the resources you need to make your job happen. Is that it?
Yeah, to make the job easy. I don't expect them. At least I don't expect them to be intensely involved in my development. I'm more interested in finding my own development career path.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess it would be nice that if they have training resources. But uh, my
Would
sentiment is that you can always like find some courses online to develop yourself. You don't necessarily need the company to provide you with formal training.
So you don't expect the company or your superiors or your coworkers to help you in your development?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. What are you willing to offer in return?
My time
Yeah.
and my presence.
Okay,
um,
so
yeah, no. So my time, energy. So anything you would provide for a job. I'd also be happy to provide some of my spare time if it means being able to create better informal relations with colleagues. But I'm not necessarily sure on what you mean by what I would be able to give. So what do I offer? So this is kind of like a question you'd get in an interview.
yes, a bit.
Okay. So I need to sell myself now? Is that it?
It's more like, what do you feel that you by by going to the company and working for them, what
Hmm.
do you think you add to it?
Right.
In a way, like, okay, so people people offer you, people are efficient and they respect your time, blah blah blah. What do you also bring to the table in all of this?
Well, I bring to the table exactly what I want to see from my colleagues. So all of the aforementioned, and especially just being able to think about the best ways to get to a certain point to for example to realize growth, so
Okay.
most there's a lot of people that follow orders, but I think if you're really involved with the company and
Mm-hmm.
and for that you need to like your job, you can create much more value for your employer. um, so in that sense I think um, I feel I feel the responsibility of um, making sure, at least that the company actively pursues opportunities in order to grow, even though that's not necessarily what I was hired to do. So that even though that would likely be a more senior task,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
usually senior people don't see what's happening at the bottom level, and those bottom people usually think it's not their place to bring up such suggestions. And I think that's one of the
Yes.
biggest ways companies lose out on growth or um, those kinds of
Okay.
opportunities. No.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And between two similar job offers, what would make you choose one over the other?
If they're exactly the same, so what would be the most differentiating factor?
Or what would you, they're very similar in that the position, it's basically the same, you know, at this core, it's there's not much that would make that would differentiate them. So how would you choose between the two of them, basically?
Whichever one has a combination of the highest salary and the location where I'm working. So it's not necessarily that the one with a slightly higher salary is the one that I'm going to go for. If it's, for example, 100 euros more per month in Amsterdam, and it's 100 euro less, but it's in Rotterdam, I would choose the Rotterdam one. But if it would be, I don't know, say 1,000 more in Amsterdam, yeah, I would choose the one in Amsterdam. So
Okay.
it's kind of yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a curve, between those two variables.
Okay. And what would make you leave your job in consulting?
Either having a good enough idea to start my own company,
Hmm.
providing a certain service or good, or me finding a client that has an interesting business, which I would like to stay at and develop more in that specific business, instead of all kinds of different projects. I think it
So
happens a lot as well. I heard it a lot. People start somewhere as consultant and eventually get hired by the company that hired their consultancy initially.
okay. Hey Thomas, I don't know if you have any questions or any insights that maybe you'd feel like it would be relevant to share with me.
On consulting jobs?
or your perspective on them?
Hmm. I used to. This maybe might be more of a personal thing, but I used to think very highly of consulting. But seeing consultants at work, for example, in my job or in my internships or even the internship right now,
Mm-hmm.
usually consultants are really good at selling shit, like packaging shit and selling it to you as a cake. So they really inflate what they're doing to look like they're very efficient or very productive or very smart. While in reality, if you lift the veil, it's usually disappointing. And I think it's a bit of a toxic culture as well, because everyone's there to perform. Usually people in consulting really, really ambitious, and they're really competitive, and it drives them to present themselves better than, or at least their achievements, uh, better than what they actually are. And I think it would be very tiring to have to work in an environment that constantly has this. Uh, yeah, constantly has this.
I Okay. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Is it?
no. It's fine. I'm gonna transcribe what you said, but I'm not gonna transcribe what I'm gonna say next, which is I understand perfectly what you're saying. Uh, the What I do have to ask, it's like, do you see? So is it correct for me to say that you see consultants in action more like salesmen than actually someone who's there to help you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Uh, is that the reason why maybe you wouldn't be, or is that the reason why you would be a bit more reluctant to pursue a consulting career?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if someone introduced to you a consulting company or presented you, okay, never mind. Wait. Sorry, I'm
No,
trying
take your time.
to. Uh, what I mean is, what if, someone did do a proposal to you to work in a consulting company and you actually got to know some of the people? And what I'm trying to ask is that although you already have this idea built about what consulting companies offer, would you say that you are open to change that idea, or do you think it's a bit like, nah, it's done. I don't want to mess with it too much.
So, so if I, so thinking that I can bring change in there, or that there's a different company that explicitly. Uh,
Are you Would you believe if I told you that consulting companies can change?
no, I don't think so. Larger ones, they can't because there's too many people,
They
and
can or they can't.
they can't. No, they can't.
Ah,
No, they can't.
you're saying
Because
many
culture's
people?
culture's too hard to change. Because culture is something all the individuals share, and also all the individuals that join learn. You know the experiment with like the monkeys, in which they first had five monkeys and a ladder in the middle of the room, and there was bananas at the top of the ladder. So every time a monkey would climb up the ladder, the entire group would get hosed down with water by the researchers. So at some point, every time a monkey tried to climb the ladder, he was beat up by the other monkeys. And then at some point they started changing out one monkey at a time, and the new monkey would climb the ladder and he would get beat up. And he would also learn this behavior to start beating up other monkeys that would climb up the ladder. And eventually they changed the entire original group where nobody was ever hosed with water, but they all beat up monkeys who climbed up the ladder. So this is kind of like one of those things that culture doesn't leave with the individuals leaving the company. So I don't think it's easy to change culture. You need like a big event, for example, with banks that they clear like half of their employees, and really have to change into like, for example, a digital era. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah. So unless they're like at the edge of bankruptcy or they're having a big change. What's the opposite of incremental? Radical? Unless they have a radical change, I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to happen. So maybe if you said that a new consulting company, like a growing one, smaller one, was claiming that they had a different culture, I do think I would believe it. But if a big four consultancy company would come up to me and say, we're really working on changing our culture, I don't think I wouldn't buy it.
Okay. Thomas, thank you so much, especially this last insight. I think it very much goes with what I'm what I'm trying to understand here.
What you found in your theory, what you hope to be able to write in the conclusion section.
No, no, no. Let me just stop recording for a second. But not that I will transcribe this part anyways. But yeah, I mean the whole idea for my thesis and my what? Wait, what's going on? Okay. So how do I